Story time about the bestiality children next door. If you don't know what bestiality is, hold on. So I was living in this neighborhood for 5 years. Throughout those 5 years, not one time did my family go and talk to the other neighbors. Why didn't we talk to the other neighbors? Because it's not like we were trying to make friends or anything. We didn't care for them. Well, one day, the neighbors' kids were playing outside while I was playing outside. My mom urged me to go over there and play with the other kids, even though I didn't really want to. So there was a little boy and a little girl. I went over there and I asked if I could pet their dog because they were playing with their dog. They said yes, and the dog started playing with me and started licking my face. Yeah, keep that in mind. Then we started talking about the bus because we ride the same bus. We have the same bus stop. After playing with them for a while, they invited me inside. I asked my mom if I could go. She said yes. So the little boy ran into his room and then the little girl invited me to her room. So to pass time, I asked her what she does for fun. She said she plays with her brother. And then she asked if I liked animals. Obviously, I said yes, and so she asked to show me a trick. That's when she brings the dog into the room and proceeds to pull down her pants, like for part 2. This is part 2 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, she brings her dog into the room and pulls down her pants. Totally forgot a very crucial piece of information. I was in 5th grade at the time. That's why I did what I did in these next events. So she pulls down her pants and lets the dog go at it. The same dog that licked my face previously. The dog went for it. He knew what to do. The only words that I could form was ew. She had trained this dog to do that. So after I said ew, she immediately got up and put her pants up, and she was surprised that I was grossed out like any normal human being wouldn't be. Then out of nowhere, she starts crying and I started feeling really bad, so I told her that I wouldn't tell anybody. And so she tells me I had to switch to my dog because my hamster wouldn't do it. Then she gets up and opens this drawer and proceeds to pull out a dead hamster. She says he wouldn't lick, he would only bite. She starts crying really hard and says she feels uncomfortable and she would feel better if I let the dog do what it did to her. As much as I didn't want to, I wanted her to feel comfortable, so I did it. This is part 3 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, I gave in. I didn't know how it was supposed to feel. It felt weird, but it didn't feel good. So I stopped and she started giggling and I just felt so uncomfortable, so I wanted to go home. Then she started acting like she was annoyed and started getting really mad at me. But I was like, whatever, and so she let me leave. Well, it was a Sunday that day and the next day we had to go to school, but she wasn't at the bus stop. And so I get on the bus and I go to school that day and everything is fine. Until halfway through the school day, my mom comes to pick me up early. She would never come to pick me up early for no reason. I would usually have an appointment and I would know about it before. I would know if I was going to leave school that day and was going to get picked up, but I wasn't notified. So my mom came to pick me up, and while we were on the way home, she said that my dad had stayed home from work that day, and when we got home, we were going to have a talk about what I did with the neighbor's dog. I promise you're going to want to like for part 4. This is part 4 of the bestiality children next door. Baby, that rhymed. Like I said, my mom is driving me home right now and we're gonna have a talk when we get home with my dad about what I did with the neighbor's dog. I tried to explain myself to her in the car, but she wouldn't let me talk. She didn't want me to say anything until we got home. But when we got home, it wasn't just my dad sitting in the living room. The neighbors were there. The mom, dad, and the 2 kids. So I was like, is this a setup? And the neighbor's dad is fuming. As soon as I walked into the living room, he stood up and tried to get in my face. Mind you, I was in 5th grade. He did that in front of my parents. My parents told him to back up, obviously, but there was a lot of tension. When he was in my face, he was saying, how dare you force my daughter to do that with our own dog? That's when I knew what the fuck was going on. This little fucker. Basically, after I left my neighbor's house the day before, the daughter went up to the parents and told them that I showed her the trick with the dog and forced her to do it. But this is when things take a turn, babes. This is part 5 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, my neighbor's parents and their kids and my parents and I were all in my living room discussing about this dog situation. So I went ahead and explained myself that she was a fucking liar and that nothing that's coming out of her mouth was true and that she was just lying and lying. And the neighbor's parents weren't too happy about the fact that I was calling their daughter a liar. And the mom just lost it and started screaming at me and going at me and just saying all these mean, terrible things. It was almost as if she had a personal problem with me. Well, baby. So I started crying really hard once the neighbor's mom started yelling at me. I don't know what that did to the neighbor's daughter, but she folded. She said, I lied. I'll tell you guys the truth. She finally admitted that it was her idea and she's the one who introduced it to me. Then once her parents expressed their disapproval, this fucking child, she says, I thought it was okay because I saw mom doing it when dad wasn't home. Story time about how my brother caught me hooking up with his girlfriend. My brother started dating this girl last year and they were hanging out every day. Also around that time last year, I started to figure out my sexuality. Well, since my brother and her would hang out every single day at my house, I would see her all the time. And I started to get little feelings. Something came over me, baby. I was like, God is a woman. I just kind of came to the conclusion that I liked girls. Since she was dating my brother and they were home all the time, me and her kind of started talking too. We exchanged Snapchats, just a friendly exchange. Keep in mind that at the time, she didn't know my sexuality. Nobody did. So that night after we exchanged Snapchats, I was Snapchatting somebody else, and I was sending them some explicit pictures. Since I recently just added my brother's girlfriend on Snapchat, her name was at the top, so I accidentally clicked on her name and sent her the explicit picture. I didn't even realize that I did that until I received a snap from her out of nowhere, and she had sent an explicit picture back, like for part 2. This is part 2 of how my brother caught me hooking up with his girlfriend. So like I said, I accidentally sent my brother's girlfriend an explicit picture on Snapchat. Not knowing that I even sent it, I received an explicit picture back from her. I said, baby, I'll really bite your titties. Stop playing with me. But after she sent me the picture, I responded with hard eyes, and then she texted me and said that she would be coming over tomorrow to hang out with my brother. I basically said, cool, I'll see you around, and then she came over the next day. So the next day came and she was at my house, but I wasn't talking to her. She was with my brother. And then she walks into my room. I was like, hey, where's Rob? We'll just call the brother that. She said she sent him to the store to get some snacks. I asked if she wanted to come chill on my bed. She agreed. And right off the bat, we started, we getting it bonking, having a good time. That's when the door swings open and there my brother is standing at my doorway. Like for part 3. This is going to be part 3 of the time my brother caught me hooking up with his girlfriend. So my brother swung my door open and there he was standing at my door watching me and his girlfriend while we were... Immediately, he was just like, oh, really? You're both fucking gross. That's when he turned around and left. Later on, we had to have like a family talk about this, and I had to come out about my sexuality to my parents, and it was really embarrassing. My parents were super accepting of me coming out, but my brother wasn't as accepting, and I'm thinking it's mostly because of the fact that he had to find out the way that he did. Because it wasn't my sexuality itself that bothered him, it was how he found out. Later on, he told me that he walked into my room because he heard us laughing in there and he wanted to ask her what exactly she wanted from the store. He was gonna ask her if she just wanted to come with, but that's what he walked in on. So my brother went ahead and broke up with his girlfriend. That's when me and her started dating, and we've been dating for about 2 years now. So I said I'd be sharing more stories of things that happened to me while I was younger that I've kept secret for my entire life and haven't told anybody, so here's another story. Fair warning, this video might be a little triggering. I was really young at the time. I don't exactly remember what age. I was around 8 or 13 years old. Me and my friends were going to this haunted maze, and it was around Halloween time. It was one of my friend's parents that was taking us there, and it was a group of 5 or 6 of my friends. While me and my friends were going through this maze, we were standing in a line, and I was standing in the very back. So while we were walking, I ended up tripping on my shoelace, and I fell to the side where there was curtains. It was the curtains where the workers would pop out and try to scare you. When I fell, I tried to yell for my friends, but because of the sound effects of the maze, they couldn't hear me, and by the time I got up, they were gone. So I started walking, and I eventually got to a place where you could only go right or left, and I went left. And once I went left, I ended up in a circular room where there was 5 passageways. But there was also a group of teenage boys, and I didn't even see them at first. All I know is I turned around and got grabbed, like for part 2. This is part 2 of the time I got lost in a haunted maze. Like I said, I lost track of my friends, and I was looking for my friends, and I ended up in a part of the maze where there was all these guys that I didn't even see at first. All I know is I turned around and I got grabbed. So I screamed. I was super young at the time. I was defenseless. I didn't know what to do. Those guys seemed like they were around their teenage years, and they were laughing and making a joke out of it. One of them was laughing, and they told their friend, grab her legs. And so the friend grabbed my legs, and they were tugging me and pulling me, and then they started to pull my pants down. Panic was filling over my body. I couldn't even scream. When you're young, you'd always think you know what to do at these moments, but you really don't. You just freeze up. And that's exactly what I did. I just froze up. But thankfully, as soon as I felt my pants starting to get pulled down, another group of people turned the corner, and that's when the boys dropped me and ran, like for part 3. This is going to be part 3 of the time I got lost in a haunted maze. Like I said, another group of people started to turn the corner. That's when the boys dropped me and they ran. Those group of people didn't really get to see what was going on. So they asked me if I was okay, and I told them that I was good. Me being super young and scared, I didn't really want to tell them what happened. My parents were also really iffy about me going out, and I didn't want there to be a situation that would make them not trust me anymore. So they started to walk me out of the maze, you guys. And I'm guessing we were nearing towards the exit. But as we were nearing towards the exit, I completely forgot about the boys. I had realized that I didn't have a bracelet that I was wearing. Me being young and trying not to annoy the people that found me and were helping me get out of the maze, I wanted to turn around, but I didn't want to tell them that I needed to turn around because I lost something. So I ran back. As I was running back, trying to find this bracelet in this maze, I had ran into the same group of teenage boys who assaulted me, like for part 4.